This video is a short introduction to the topic of exploratory action research. We will look at the background to this approach and the processes involved, including a brief example. I'll also share links to some practical resources freely available on the internet for teachers and mentors interested in conducting exploratory action research projects in their context. Exploratory action research was originally developed by Richard Smith of the University of Warwick, working with Paula Rebolledo and Tom Connolly on a project to support in-service teachers in Chile, South America.
I was invited to Chile in 2013 by the British Council, and they wanted to start an action research program for secondary school teachers who are pretty busy. They have up to 40 hours teaching a week, not complete hours, but teaching hours. They may have relatively large classes, 40 students or more. So I was very happy to go there, but I was keen that we shouldn't have something that would be an extra burden to teachers who are already very busy.
The approach taken on the project incorporated a number of innovative design features. These included a need for continuing professional development, which was directed and owned by the teachers themselves. A need for an approach to teacher education that was feasible and useful in difficult circumstances, one that offered greater sustainability than those typically found in more traditional top-down CPD programs. It also incorporated an action research element as a means to collect evidence both before introducing change into the classroom and for assessing its impact. The project team developed a practice-oriented model that aimed to demystify teacher research, avoiding many of the time-consuming and often complex procedures typically involved in academic research. A slogan of the project was "Research by teachers, for teachers." Exploratory action research continues to be used by the Ministry of Education in Chile, as well as being exported to several countries around the world, including India and Nepal in South Asia, Peru and Mexico in the Americas, as well as China and Sierra Leone, demonstrating itself to be implementable and sustainable in a range of challenging contexts across the Global South. A typical action research cycle first involves planning for and then introducing a change into one's classroom, followed by observation of the impact of the change and then reflection. While exploratory action research also includes these elements, it first begins with an initial cycle of exploration, in which the teacher first attempts to understand more about a phenomenon or puzzle before making any changes in their practice. This initial exploration not only builds the teacher's understanding of their context and informs the action research cycle itself, but also serves as baseline data of sorts, which can sometimes be compared to data collected later on in the project, although it doesn't have to. Let's look at an example of exploratory action research conducted by an Indian teacher called Rumana. Rumana decided to investigate how she offers feedback on her secondary students' written work, after reading an article that recommends not only providing correction of errors, but also positive feedback on strengths in the writing, something she rarely did herself. After deciding on her research question, Rumana began her exploratory phase, deciding to interview focus groups of her students using open questions to find out their opinions on her feedback strategies. She learned that while some were unsure, most students felt that both correction and praise were important. However, upon careful analysis of the data, she also noticed some of the problems caused by too much correction, including learner confusion, a reduction in confidence, and her use of red pen, which parents sometimes interpreted negatively. This informed her action research phase, in which she decided to balance correction with praise, to use a blue pen rather than red when giving feedback, and also to include symbols and emojis in her feedback. During the observe phase of her action research cycle, Rumana collected both quantitative data through surveys and qualitative data through further student interviews. Importantly, because her learners had now experienced the change, they had clearer opinions on their preferences, which varied. The students who had higher English proficiency generally preferred more correction than she had been providing. But the opinions of the less English proficient learners supported the advice of the article she had read. They found praise useful, confidence building, and informative, especially if it was specific. Based on these findings, Rumana was able to implement a research-informed, differentiated approach to marking written work in the future. She also planned to conduct another action research cycle on this topic later in the year to focus on whether her change in approach would have an impact on students' exam scores. Exploratory action research projects also involve a focus on something that is often overlooked in professional development programs, what we might call the social aspect of CPD. At regular stages during the research cycle of exploratory action research projects, participant teachers are invited to come together at workshops and symposia. This may happen at the start of a project, after the exploratory phase, and at the end, to share their findings. This element is often emphasized as particularly useful and rewarding by many participating teachers, not only because of the social interaction involved, but also because it offers multiple opportunities to learn about aspects of practice based on classroom research conducted by colleagues confronting similar challenges in the same national context. At the final symposium, all participants have the opportunity to share the findings of their research, both through individual talks and poster presentations in a teacher-friendly fashion.
Yes, but today actually we are not carrying.
So this was also very exciting game. The dice, roll and read. So they would roll the dice. It is a fun game.
A number of these conferences have led to publications, in which some of the participants describe their projects and findings for colleagues to read and potentially learn from.
And we've done some research to find out what the impact was with teachers in Chile in particular. We did interviews, we did questionnaires, and we found that the two main areas of impact, three really. The first one was teachers managed to understand and solve some particular classroom issue. But apart from that, a major impact finding was that through this process, the teachers have felt more in control of their situations. They felt less demotivated by their problems. They felt that they could see a way to overcome problems. Even though the problems continue, they can see a way to understand their situation and to solve their problems. They felt more empowered. This was what was reported from them. And thirdly, they reported that their relationship with students had improved. The rapport with students had got better. And that, I think, is because they had been consulting students more than before.
Let's now look at some of the publications and other resources that have been produced both to support teachers and teacher educators engaging in exploratory action research. All are free to download. So the first publication to mention is the Handbook for Exploratory Action Research that Richard and Paula put together. It takes teachers through all the stages in the process, using detailed examples and non-technical language, and can be used by both teachers themselves or educators organising an exploratory action research project. The second is a guide that Richard has written for mentors of teacher research in general, not just exploratory action research. It is also practically oriented, non-technical, and covers things like what mentoring involves, how to get started, and how to guide teachers effectively through projects. Here is the first Champion Teachers publication, packed full of examples of projects and their findings, stories told by the teachers themselves, a personal favourite of mine. There are also plenty of videos and websites online reporting on specific exploratory action research projects and their impact on teachers. So that concludes this introductory video to exploratory action research. I hope you have found it useful. Don't forget to check out the recommended publications when you have time.